The year is 2011. The Earth is yet to have exploded. You get home from school and it's time to boot up the PlayStation 3 or Xbox 360, the hottest consoles in the market. You and your friends gather together, get some snacks and cola, and get started on playing Mortal Kombat 9. Mortal Kombat vs. DC did not live up to its name, and this new game just completely takes the cake, eats it, and bakes another. Nothing else was more fun than having local 2v2 matches with a large roster of classic characters to choose from. For a lot of people, this was their first introduction to Mortal Kombat, and maybe for some others, it wasn't the first game they heard of, but it was the first time playing a game of the franchise. And to many players, this game still holds up quite strong, and some just straight up prefer this title over something like Mortal Kombat 11. It's not just Mortal Kombat. For fighting games in general, it's not the graphics that make the game, it's how it plays. It's the roster dynamics, it's the mechanics. The game could look like a hot mess, but if the internal skeleton of the game is well executed, then the game could still garner lots of attention. Because at the end of the day, a fighting game can look cool, but it for sure has to offer something special or unique to keep players invested in the long run. If playing matches over and over feels dull, there's no reason to continue supporting the game, and then people would just have to wait for the next installment to come out, if another does come out, in order to see if they want to stick to the series or if the last game they tried just left such a sour taste and they just step away from the series entirely, or at least for quite some time. And that's what we're going to be discussing in this video. Is Mortal Kombat 1 going to hold up as one of, if not the best game in the franchise? It's a very difficult question to ask because the game has yet to have fully dropped, but we have gotten a lot of new info and gameplay to talk about. I bet when I talked about Mortal Kombat 9, you probably had forgotten this video was meant to discuss about Mortal Kombat 1. The memories of that game are quite unforgettable, for good and bad, and its longevity is akin to how Smash Bros. Melee has stood the test of time against Brawl, Wii U and 3DS, and even Ultimate. Is it because of the nostalgia? Or perhaps it's because it was the last game to have all of the iconic characters together. Maybe it's because it had the most offline content, including an amazing story mode and insane challenge tower mode. Whatever the case may be, Mortal Kombat 9 set a very high standard for Mortal Kombat games going forward, and its follow-up, Mortal Kombat X, just only set the bar higher with its fast combo system and interactable environments. Mortal Kombat 9 may be beloved, but when most players think about the complexities of Mortal Kombat in general, a majority of players are going to pick Mortal Kombat X as a source of reference to how these games should feel like. The only downside I've heard about MKX from its launch was the variation system. Over time, this system was welcomed for it being something new, and something that ended up involving strategically planning which set of moves would best suit beating your opponent. MK11 decided to take a more laid-back approach in its game speed in order to make the attacks feel heavier, more realistic, and it's because the game in itself was built on a more realistic direction with its graphics and animations. The game looks great, but it does feel awkward to play more often than not. A character does not have to be balls to the walls crazy, but they do need to feel like they have a complete moveset, and this is what ended up hurting MK11 the most. For most promotional material, Mortal Kombat 11 had characters have so many interesting moves to pick from, and you'd have the freedom to customize your character with a set of moves that fit your playstyle. It sounded good on paper, but the customization really did sour the experience for many others. In MK11, you'd have 3 slots reserved for your moves outside of the basics, like Scorpion Spear for instance. But what made things worse was that some moves ended up taking 2 or sometimes even 3 slots, and a good number of moves were not compatible with others because they used the exact same input. This system was initially designed to make competitive Mortal Kombat more balanced, but even still, pros and casuals alike agreed that this was not the best way to go, and people missed when characters could just do what they wanted to do without restrictions, like in Mortal Kombat 9. Thankfully, it looks like NetherRealm is finding a balance with Mortal Kombat 1. This game could be fast, but it's not reaching breaknecking speed like MKX, and on top of that, characters are not restricted to just a couple of moves. They feel much more open and don't have to rely on one gimmick to beat their opponent, and I feel this harkens back to Mortal Kombat 9. Experimenting with variations and customizable movesets was interesting, and it really wasn't the worst thing ever just because it was new and different. But when a character becomes so limited that they are not viable to win matches and get left for other stronger variants, it just becomes polarizing for players. What Mortal Kombat 1 achieves is making the main playable characters have a good number of options and set playstyle, while giving freedom to the player to choose a cameo that best suits their strategies. It's no longer about picking the character with the best specials, but it's now about picking the best team to use to get around your opponent. You and your opponent have equal opportunity to pick their mains, but you can also counterpick cameos to help either get the most pressure, the most combo potential, or the most defensive measures. That's not to say that it makes the meta foolproof. I mean, still far from it. There's always going to be a set of teams that is just going to dominate still. Even if the other player is choosing the best counters, that's just the nature of fighting games, especially at launch. But I feel like with how the game speed and overall feel of Mortal Kombat 1 has taken a positive step forward from its initial gameplay reveal, I'm sure adjustments will be hugely beneficial to keeping the meta from staying just one way. NetherRealm Studios has improved so much since Mortal Kombat 9, and I have no doubt that the story mode is also going to be a banger. Story modes in fighting games is a lot harder to do than most would assume, and they're not always executed the best because at the end, the whole mode has to tie back and revolve around the gameplay. But Mortal Kombat has done a pretty decent job all around in making good story content, even with all the cheap ass moments. You know the ones. But I do wonder if there's going to be some curveballs that NetherRealm could implement to where the rules of how a fighting game story is presented are kind of turned on its head in some way. But I don't see too much changing other than the fluidity of the cutscenes and battle transitions realistically. It's more of just an anticipation after seeing how Mortal Kombat 11 handled its cutscenes and transitions. For all we know, Mortal Kombat 1 could maybe pull off the kind of resurgence that Mortal Kombat 9 had for many new players. Mortal Kombat in general has always been really popular and has had many dedicated fans since the arcade days, but there's no denying that by the time Mortal Kombat X was being released, the series exploded in popularity that wasn't seen before, and I'd like to think MK9 had a big role to play in that. And I'm really just hoping that this game kind of has the same potential as well. I think what's going to separate MK1 from the others is the combo potential. There's already a good number of characters that can do some crazy stuff, and I wouldn't doubt that this game would be the one that attracts plenty of casual players to start learning combo routes and mix-ups and playing the neutral. MK11 was slow and heavy, requiring lots of precise timings, and the crushing blows made it so that one little mistake could cost you well over half of your health bar most of the time. It was cool for a while, but then it was obvious that some of the mechanics just made matches feel so one-sided a good chunk of the time. MKX had a very good combo system too, and it was much faster than MK9, so once again, it made a very lasting impression. However, I feel like the combos in MKX were just a little over the top for some characters, though most of that opinion does actually stem from the original release version of the game, and not the patched versions we've got over the years. For someone who liked to learn the intricacies of the combo system, it was a blast, and felt so good when you finally landed the combo you studied like it was an algebra test online. But when it came down to it, the skill gap was so wide that you could fit a whole semi-truck smack dab in the middle. It's not a bad thing when a game has a large skill gap, and in some ways it could be a very rewarding challenge to learn new ways to play and get better. Though I do think narrowing the skill gap does help keep players engaged for much longer, at least in a broad sense. And I know that NetherRealm Studios does not want to repeat the same mistakes of Mortal Kombat 11, where they just gave up on supporting the game when we had been told that the game was going to last quite a long time. It was a bizarre decision, and it just came right out of nowhere. I wouldn't want to see that happen for a true next-gen Mortal Kombat game. I think it's safe to say that MK1 is going to be supported for longer than MK11, and maybe even MKX. And if that does stay true, then I can see this game becoming one of the best in the franchise for the community at large. This really could go either way, but I have high hopes for MK1. And I truly do wish it the best because the beta was a ton of fun. Getting to know the characters even without looking at the moveset so much was just a whole kind of different experience for me. I'm really not a good Mortal Kombat player, but this is definitely turning out to be my favorite of the series so far. Now, I want to know what you guys think. Do you think Mortal Kombat 1 could be the best in the series, or is it just in your top 5? Maybe it's not your thing, and you just don't like the feel of the game. Go ahead and share your opinion down in the comments below. If you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment down below, and subscribe for more discussions like this. Also, check out some of my series like my JoJo All-Star Battle R or Doom videos. And if you also enjoy Mortal Kombat, I've got some gameplay videos of Mortal Kombat 1 on my channel, and I've even got a couple of streams of MK9's Expert Story Mode. As always guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you on the next video. Thank you and take care.